G'day mates, final day before New Hampshire. Not really much else to discuss. DeSantis dropped out, so that's good. Which means it's literally a two-horse race at the moment. Technically Binkley is in, but who knows, whatever he's doing. I already made a video regarding Iowa. I just made a slight update regarding this. So here's the normal error, which means the difference between actual results and the aggregate polling. Negative meaning overperformance, or sorry, underperformance. Positive meaning overperformance regarding polling. What this does is it averages it out, literally. So it takes the sign into account, which means that a +6 for DeSantis would compensate the -1.5 for Trump. And there you get a deviation. So you get, for an example, Trafalgar, which overestimated Trump slightly, underestimated DeSantis, underestimated Ramaswamy, and as a result, the error becomes essentially zero. The absolute error, on the other hand, takes the absolute values, so it doesn't care to look about whether it's an overperformance or an underperformance. It just checks what the deviation is between the value and polling. Both are valuable in this case. It's just the brain thing doing its shit again. So what you can see, for an example, Trafalgar is the most accurate one, followed by Big Data, followed by Emerson. Slight deviations here. However, if we look at the absolute values, it is Trafalgar that is the most accurate. Then it becomes insider advantage, and then the number 3 would be Suffolk. So now we have the values compensated essentially, whether it's the underperformance or overperformance. So it's kind of counters out the methodology. So I'm going to keep both of these into account. Now we're moving on to New Hampshire. I'm just going to lead these two. Alright, so at the moment the aggregate is right here. So Trump at 54, Haley at 37, DeSantis at 7, and Binkley at 0.1. Because I actually went through all the polls, the data itself. So here is the amount of delegates that you get proportionally to the vote, so that's what I'm going to fill in on top. This is including the threshold, so less than 10%, 0 delegates. That's how New Hampshire works. And this one is rounding them off, because you also have to round them, and the winner gets any leftover delegates. Now that that's clear, I want you to bring, or at least show, 2016 Republican primary. So what we have, final polling was Trump at 31, Rubio at 14, Kasich at 13.5, Cruz at 11, Bush at 11, Christie at 6, Fiorina at 4, and Carson, I almost wanted to say Carson, at 3. So Trump plus 17. He overperformed polling by 2 points. At least in the spread. Here's the fun part. He was supposed to perform at 31%, he got 35%. So it's overperformance of 4%. The number 2, Kasich, got 13 in the polling, got 15 as a final result, which is an overperformance of, once again, 2 points. So, what do we see here? That Trump is underestimated in New Hampshire, as is the token opposition to him. That's clear. So, polling Emerson at 53, St. Anselm at 52 for Trump, Suffolk at 55, slightly under, CNN at 50, and the insider advantage at 62. This one is the latest in the aggregate, so you just want to take that into account. Now what we can also do is look at the latest one for New Hampshire. And that's the funny one, because Emerson is of today, so that's 53 to 37. Now we have Trump at 62-35, that's also today. CNN, that was Sunday. And the funny part about this thing is you should really look at the data points that they use here, because that's a real fun one. I also put something up on Twitter for that. That's really funny because they put 30% of their sample is not Republican. Now that's fine, because independents can vote for either party. Here's the thing though. They put a sample of 13% in that is registered Democrat. Well, they can't vote in a Republican primary. So, but why do you pick Democrats? Well, that's funny because Democrats in this CNN poll, 90% of them vote for Haley, 1% votes for Trump, and the remaining 9% is undecided. Well, they're going to go for Haley, of course. So what you have is essentially you put 13% of the vote in to make sure that you close the gap. So instead of it being a blowout, like here, 26 points difference, 24, sorry. So 16, 14, this is 18, now it's 11, and this is 27. I mean, I can easily do this, right? Right, so here's the deviation. That's the funny part of it. So on aggregate, it becomes a 17-point difference. Where you can see, if I take the Democrats out of it, Trump gets at 54, Haley comes to 34, and if I fill this in, so 34 and 54, you magically get a margin of plus 20. Now, it's understandable why CNN doesn't want to do it, of all places, because they want Haley to win, of course, or at least to show up a strong second contender. So, what am I thinking about this happening? So, DeSantis dropped, endorsed Trump. Ramaswamy did the same. So, I'm looking at it and saying, like Binkley, I'm going to be generous to him, and I'm going to say 0.5%. Now, I already was bullish on my prior prediction, giving Binkley enough for a delegate in Iowa. That's not going to happen. That was a pretty big overestimation on my end. I am like 1.5% or something. I mean, I can just check it real quick. Let's go to the YouTubes at my own channel, because I have it in a community post, by the way. Regarding this, okay, my final prediction: Binkley at 2.2%. Well, that's an overestimation of 1.5%. That's fine. I also said there was a 5% margin of error. Funny thing about it is, I had Ramaswamy on point, I had Haley on point, I had Trump on point. Hutchinson, slight overestimation. But then again, I was really generous towards these candidates. Funny enough, I had Ramaswamy at exactly the delegates that he got. And same goes for Haley, exact same delegates. The only thing that's different is I gave Trump one too many, and Binkley and Hutchinson each one too many. So, prediction pretty much spot on for 90% of the things, whatever. So, with DeSantis, I'm thinking there is a 20% support of him that will not change whatsoever. So that's 1.4%. Now let's round it to 1.5%. It's not enough to give him any delegates, so who cares? That brings us to Haley and Trump. I think Trump is going to overestimate the polling slightly. So it's not going to be 4% like it was in 2016. It's going to be about 2%. So I'm going to say he gets 56.5% of the vote. Now that's enough for 12 delegates. Slightly, if it's going to be 57, I believe, then that's 13 delegates. Right, so here's another one. I'm going to just say that everything else is going to go to Haley, because I'm going to be generous. 51, that's 41.5. I think that this may actually be a little too much for Haley. I mean, looking at this, the CNN one is definitely overestimation. I'm gonna say it's gonna be roughly about 38, something like that, which leaves us as 3.5% of the vote. Which, I mean, yeah, that could be the rest. Let's just do Trump at 58, whatever, right? So that brings us at the following delegate count. Trump gets 13, Haley gets 8, which brings us with one leftover delegate, and the way that it works in New Hampshire is the winner gets the remaining delegate, which means that Trump gets the bonus delegate, bringing it 14 to 8. Now, I wanted to bring you also the delegate map. Here you go, I already filled it in for the previous one, which brings us to 14 and 8. Trump with 34 delegates, Haley at 16. And here's where the fun part comes in, because now we have Nevada coming up next in the schedule. And you have the primary, sanctioned by the Democratic Party. Here's the problem. They get no delegates. So Haley is on the primary, Trump is in the caucus. I mean, yeah. I mean, there may be a resistance against Trump, basically saying like, oh yeah, we're going to caucus for DeSantis anyway. That's a possibility, but Haley's not going to get any delegates in Nevada. Virgin Islands, Haley's not going to get anything. And now we have South Carolina. It is Trump against Haley. Everyone else dropped out. And here's the fun part about North or South Carolina. Each district gets 3 votes. And the state at large gets 29. If you win the popular vote in a district, you get all the delegates. If you win the popular vote in the state, you get everything for the 29. So what is going to happen? I don't see Trump losing any district. And I could also open, let's do that, because I kind of want to see the results from 2016 regarding South Carolina. Let's see, because I wanted to see it by district, which one is the strongest district. So, which is something that is weird because it's not really showing all the districts based on the results, which I think is frustrating and annoying. But when it comes to the county map, we can already see Trump won every single county. I'm gonna pull it up. So every single county except the center, and here with I believe that's Charleston. So essentially, that is 7 districts of every single district won by Donald Trump. Maybe the Green Papers has it. I really should prepare this a lot more. 2016, South Carolina. They do have it by district. And this is why I love the Green Papers, and you should use it too. So, every congressional district, Trump won them all. The closest one was the 1st district, which is now belonging to Nancy Mace. At the time, was a Republican. In the midterms, Joe Cunningham won it, so it's flipped Democrat. So here you go, that was about 2 points. Every other district, Trump won handily. And that's the point here, because Trump is going to win every single district. So he gets all delegates. So he's at 114 delegates before Michigan. Don't forget that one. That one is also before the Super Tuesday. I keep having an aneurysm or some shit. Still, I'm cognitively better than Joe Biden. That's funny, right? So let's go to Michigan, because we also have some polling for that. Albeit very outdated. In order to get any delegates in Michigan, you need 12.5% of the vote. And that's really the point. So there is a chance of Nikki Haley getting 12.5% of the vote. DeSantis isn't, endorsed Trump, so that's happening. Christie is out, Ramaswamy endorsed Trump, Hutchinson endorsed Haley. So what you get is Trump at 75, 80% of the vote in the Rust Belt, with Haley stuck at what, 10, 15%. What does that mean? Well, the first time around you get the primary, which is statewide. So let's say Haley gets 15% of the vote. The primary gets 16 delegates. So you have 16, Haley got 2.4. So that's rounded down to, and Trump gets the rest, so at 14. Then we have the congressional districts. Let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that Nikki Haley gets 15% in every district. Bring it to an even one, right? So that means we have Nikki at 15 and Trump gets everything else. Now we go into Super Tuesday, where most states say that if you get 60% or 2/3 of the vote, or if your closest competitor gets less than 20% of the vote, you get all the delegates. Which brings us, simply, North Carolina goes to Trump, all of it, Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Alaska, California, Colorado, Idaho, Minnesota. Now we have Vermont, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, DC, and Maine. And we see that Trump is basically already there. We have Oklahoma as well, and then Utah, which is going to be a little more proportional. Same story goes for the islands, actually. And then we have Washington, which says essentially winner take all state in this regard. Same goes with Mississippi and Georgia. And then the funny part about it is because the amount of delegates for New Jersey and the Virgin Islands are reduced, which means you no longer have the 2,467 maximum. You have 2,425, which means that you have requirement goes from 1,234 delegates to 1,215 delegates out of the top of my head. Which means Trump is already there. And we haven't even done the proportional calculation regarding Utah or Hawaii, which simply brings it, with DeSantis dropping out, it is essentially guaranteed that Trump has the nomination. So I don't know what the fuck we're doing anymore. So, this is basically the rest of the primary. Not really anything else to go on. I never thought that the presidential election would be closer for the Democrat side than it would be for the Republican side. I think that's funny. But let's see what the results in New Hampshire bring. It's going to be hilarious if Biden is polling less than 50%. I believe there was one poll that had him at 49. So if tomorrow Joe Biden has less than 50% of the vote, and you're talking about filling in 8 characters in a write-in campaign. So if you can do 8 characters, that says a hell of a lot about the Democrat electorate and the enthusiasm for Joe Biden. So, primary election is basically done. It's not even February. Before April, we have the Republican nominee, and depending on how good Joe Biden is performing, we have the Democrat nominee as well, and then we go into general election mode. That's funny. And then we're going to basically do the polling analysis like this. I'm going to make sure that the sheet regarding the performance, so this one, is updated as much as possible regarding the primary results. So we can use that in the general election to see which polls are more accurate, which are less accurate. We're also going to be using Real Clear regarding the results of the past, 10 elections. So 2012, of 2022, 2020, 2018, 2016, 2012, and a little bit back. I also have a lot of more statistical data regarding the overestimation of particular parties regarding this. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of statistical data being dumped into this. And it's going to be fun. Alright, I hit the 20-minute mark. I don't think there's anything I need to tell anymore. I don't think there's anything to tell. So that's it for now. If you have any requests for content or videos to make, please do so. Ideas are always welcome. Rest of the stuff, like, subscribe, all that thing, feel free to do so. You're not forced to do it. You can if you want. Feel free to do so. Cheers. See you next time.